Hello everyone, my name is Arkfair, and I'm a Sorceress main on the NA West Mari server. On this channel, I typically make videos on Reflux and Igniter builds, and I try to showcase them in raids, Trixian, and all sorts of places. My goal is to try and provide entertaining and educational content for people who enjoy playing this class. So naturally, pretty much all of my videos feature my main character here, but in recent times, some people have been asking me about my roster and how I generally play the game outside of my sorceress. So I thought I'd make a video to kind of share my history with the game, how I currently play it with my roster, and my overall thoughts on the game in general. So to start, I have been playing this game since the beta, right? Whenever that was released, and then on launch, which was about a year ago now. Wow, it's been actually more than that. Kind of crazy to think about. And since then, I've logged about 2,500 hours, which I'll show you in a screenshot over here. I have pretty much cleared every single raid on release week, with the exception of normal Belshazzar Gate 5, 6, because my group at the time wasn't ready. Their item levels weren't high enough. So I have a couple of screenshots from each of those clears that I'd like to share, so let's get into it. This was my very first hard Vulcan clear on week 1. At the time, I didn't have a group or a static, so I remember pugging it through Party Finder and things like that, and I pretty much ran this until like 7 in the morning or something ridiculous like that. You can see the time up there is 4 a.m. server time, but I actually live on the East Coast, so for me, it was basically morning. This was an 8 DPS raid, and I shock called the entire fight through in-game voice chat, which I don't think anyone uses anymore, but back then, a decent amount of people did. I remember coordinating every single thing on telling people where to stand, what battle items to throw, how to dodge every single attack, and in the end, after many hours of trying, we finally cleared it. And this experience is really what got me hooked into playing Lost Ark. The raid experience, I think Vulcan is a really well designed fight for anyone trying to learn how to raid in Lost Ark. Knowing his patterns really rewards you with dodging all of them, and it was just overall a really wholesome experience. You can see the chat just going crazy after we cleared. People were just celebrating, and they actually gave me the box for free at the time because I was the shot caller, and they were like, "Oh, you deserve it." So this made me, of course, feel a little bit good. From there, for Vicus, I actually started playing with my guildmates and my group, and we actually formed a static. And here is the MVP screen for that one. For this one, I still remember we had 7 DPS and 1 support because there was support shortage at the time. And we had 2 parties. We had one party that was like on item level, and we paired them with the support, and then all the people who were slightly overgeared. So I was in the slightly overgeared party, as you can see here. Sneaky is a guild that's just a close group of friends, and we've been raiding pretty much since Vulcan. And even though the guild isn't as active anymore, it still holds a special place in my heart here. For Clown, I remember we had a support shortage in our guild, so my first clear was on a bard. These 3 here were on their main characters, I was on my bard, and then we switched positions. They were on their alts, and then I went on my main character, hence why the damage in this case was so high. I remember really being frustrated with Clown, just because it was definitely a step up from Vulcan and Vicus. And one thing I remember in particular is that my mortal nemesis was the hammers, which I know might sound like ridiculous to you now, but back then, hammers were just my mortal enemy. I would always die to them, I would never see them coming. I used to call them BS. I wanted them removed from the fight. Of course, now I don't think they're a big deal, but I just still remember complaining about that. For Belshazzar, a couple of weeks after its release, I started to prog 5 and 6, partially with guild members and partially with pugs. And this happened to be the clear screen for the first time I cleared Gate 6. It was a mixture of guild members and pugs. I still remember this fight at the very end after Second Shapes. It was just me and the Bard. And people were kind of calling for a restart, saying, oh, like, there's like 20 bars left, like let's just restart and get another pull in. But I think the bard said, hey, just let him try. And I remember just playing out of my mind, clutching it up, and we eventually cleared, and that's why I have such a high damage ratio, because, well, I was the only one alive at the time. A really memorable moment for me. And then, of course, with Hard Belshazzar, I have uploaded a clear of that, but this was with a completely different group because by now, my static had completely disappeared for the most part. And so I joined a random group that I found on the official Lost Ark Discord. And I have to say, shout out to Ambulance in Rohendo. All of you guys are amazing people, really supportive, good at the game, and I really had a blast progging with you. This was the first time that I did not get MVP on a release week clear. Rain, our scrapper here, is an absolute monster, and I think the only way I could have beaten him probably was to play Igniter and take an Atropines and Dark Bombs or something like that. I don't know. But I was particularly proud of this clear because it only took 3 days, so about 3 hours of progging each. And I was the primary shot caller. I did all the meteor callouts, meteor placements, called out every attack, and kind of coordinated everything from start to finish. And so I felt kind of good about at least showing up on the family photo like this. Anyway, that's just a short little history about my kind of progression with this game. And my current main character is my Sorceress, as you can see here. So I thought I'd kind of talk about some of the things I don't get to talk about in my other videos, things like horizontal progress, my goals for this character and my roster in general, and things like that. So to start, for rapport, I have everything maxed, right? I was very diligent with all of my actions daily. I remember even when I was super tired, the one thing I would make sure to do was do all of my rapport actions, which I know is probably not the smartest thing, but I just really wanted to get this done and out of the way. Collectibles, I don't think this is all too crazy or impressive. I really slack on things like Island Souls and World Tree Leaves and Sea Bounties to an extent, but everything else I feel pretty good about. There are 3 Makoko Seeds that came out with the newest update, so I have to go back and collect them. And naturally, because I have every Ignia token, I also have, 100% completion on every Adventure Tome. I am one of those people that actually enjoys this grind for whatever reason. I know a lot of people don't, but I kind of find it relaxing to not, constantly raid or fight and to go off collecting some mushrooms or killing a mob here or there. Maybe I'm just weird. I don't know. Another thing I guess as well too is Una reputations. I do have all of them maxed out, which used to be a pretty cool achievement. But nowadays, I think most people who have been playing the game for a long time have this if they bothered to do it. So there it is. Alright, on to my main character. So my main character is my Sorceress here. She is currently 1581 item level, and I have both a Reflux and Igniter set up here. I got really lucky on this character's quality, right? Literally all of these used to be blue and I one-tapped them in one session. It was just kept going and I was just completely shocked. I recently upgraded to Ancient Accessories. The quality isn't the best, but overall it still is a damage increase, and honestly being a crit class and having low quality isn't the worst thing in the world, especially when you run Adrenaline a 3 like I do, right? Like this. Gems, I've been looking to upgrade these for quite a bit of time. I invested more in my Igniter gems, which I'll show you in a bit in a second. But eventually I like to get these up to level 9 and things like that. I think gems will get cheaper soon, so I'm kind of holding out for that. And for cards, I am at Light of Salvation 18. I'm very, very, very close to 30. I just need a couple more Balthors and a couple more Azenas. I do have some selection packs that I've been hoarding, so hopefully with a couple of more packs that come out, I'll get a little bit lucky and I'll be able to complete this. I am by no means a free-to-play player. I do spend quite a bit on this game. I would be what you would call a quote-unquote sizable salmon or whatever the hell that mean is. So I don't want anyone to get any ideas of me being like a super hardcore grinder or anything like that, because I'm not. Right? So that's my Reflux build. I really like playing Reflux in situations where I need something consistent and reliable. So typically in raids, I'll play this in Belshazzar Gate 2 if I'm doing Procol, Belshazzar Gate 5, and Belshazzar Gate 6. Those are where I play Reflux. For everything else, I pretty much play Igniter because once you've learned the mechanics and they are easy enough to implement, then just being able to chug an Atropine, sync up with your support, and burst through the bosses is a lot of fun for me, so that's why I have it here. Again, recently upgraded to relic accessories over here. Not the best quality, but again, it is what it is. Still an overall damage increase. I do lose a little bit of meter gen, but it's not too bad. And generally speaking, I play Hallucination, the non-reverse gravity variant, because I find it the most comfortable to play. Engravings, you can see again, this was the first level 10 gamble gem I rolled. I was going to sell it, but then my guildmates told me to keep it, so here we are. This was my second one, and I told myself after this one, I'm never going to do this again, I'm 50-50, I'm even. And then I have some gems on Explosion and Punishing Strike, and then the rest are level 7. I've been meaning to upgrade these, but again, I think gems will go down soon, so I'm holding off for a bit. Plus, well, as you can see, I have no gold. So that's a pretty good reason why I can't upgrade. So there's that. So a lot of people often ask me like my thoughts on Reflux versus Igniter, and I think Reflux gets a lot of unnecessary hate, right? Maybe that's just the Reflux main and me talking a little bit because I used to play this class exclusively, but I think it's more of an issue with the player base, right? Um, because Sorc is the most popular class, you're gonna have a bigger spread of bad players, right? Reflux players who don't get good uptime, or Igniter players who just have no idea what they're doing and they burst at random times and they don't land all their spells. They just kind of ignite, cast their 3 spells and call it a day, and that's all they do. Like, you'll never do good damage if you do that, so maybe that's where the bad rep comes from. But I think Reflux is a fine thing, right? I enjoy playing it a lot, especially when I play Igniter for so long. I kind of get bogged down by the slowness and the clunkiness, and you miss a Doomsday because the boss backstepped and you want to kill yourself. Maybe that's a little bit extreme. So when I switch over to Reflux, it's like, oh, like I have suddenly so much more freedom and mobility, and I can cast spells. I don't have to worry about boss patterns. I can react with blink and things like that, right? So it's a little bit liberating to do. So each of them have their own unique playstyles, and for those of you who play Sorc, if you're playing Reflux, I definitely recommend trying out Igniter, right? At least in Trixion, it's expensive to build. And then for Igniter players, I also recommend trying Reflux, right? Again, in Trixion, or maybe you'll even build Reflux because it's pretty cheap. I think both of the builds teach you valuable lessons about how to play this game. Reflux teaches you that uptime is king, right? If you're not doing uptime with Reflux, you are basically doing 0 damage, which is why a lot of Reflux players, especially Swift players, not to call you guys out, do no damage because you don't get good uptime, because it's hard to do, right? And Igniter teaches you to really pay attention to the boss, learn the mechanics and tells and the patterns and the HP lines, so that you know when to burst, when to generate meter, and things like that. So both are great classes in my opinion. I know a lot of people kind of put Reflux down, but I just want to say that if you're a Reflux player, don't give up, right? Hopefully one day they'll buff this class even more, because to be 100% honest, the damage is a little depressing, I'll be honest. Anyway, so that's my main character. This is my Sorc. For the rest of my roster, I'll go ahead and go through them one by one. My other main character is a Pinnacle Glaivier, sitting at 1561 item level, so I'll go ahead and look at her here. I know a lot of people don't like Glaivier, but to me, she is probably one of the most like fun ults to play in this game. Some people say the rotation is boring. I actually like that. It's just very rhythmic. You kind of get into that flow state. You can basically do anything as Pinnacle Glaivier: stagger, destruction, counter, great mobility, great tankiness, reasonable damage, and she just kind of does a lot of things, right, that I really like about this class. So I run the non-entropy variant, just the quote-unquote hitmaster variant. Quality across the board. Again, I don't know, I'm pretty lucky with quality. Even have 100 pants in this case. I've never spent a lot to do this, and I recently tapped my weapon to 18 for the glow, as you can see here. Eventually, we'll upgrade these to Ancient, and this bracelet really needs a revamp. It's pretty terrible, as you can see here, but, it's just something that I picked up, rolled, and then never thought about again. Standard engravings for the non-positional one, level 7 gems, and of course full level 5 tripods as well. So this is my reliable DPS character, very fun to play, especially with like Hanumatan right now. She can do everything: counter, stagger, destruction. I am the destruction bomb. I am the whirlwind grenade, right? And her damage is not bad either, right? I think it could definitely use a buff in general, but you know, things like the parry are just something I really like. Just the insane mobility of the character, the nice animations, right? I just really like a lot of things about this class. I just wish that it did slightly more damage. You know, that's kind of my thoughts on this class here. But a great, reliable class, really comfy alt to play, and that's why I have it. Alright, next up, I have my Bard. You can see that I actually play all three supports in my roster, but Bard is by far my favorite of the three supports. I find it to be the most engaging and the most fun to play. There's a big difference between a bad bard and a good bard, and I've played with my fair share of bad bards and good bards, and honestly, the good bards make me want to play my bard more, right? Because there's so many things you can do on this class to really, you know, have an impact on your team, right, in your raid. Okay, so for this character, again, quality is pretty decent across the board. Eventually, again, same thing, will upgrade my accessories to Ancient. Again, Bracelet, we don't talk about it. I'm going to fix this one day. But I have both Drops of Ether set up, as you can see here. I have all the gems for every single skill that I use in my builds. And I have the You Have a Plan Awakening, which is 1% party damage. Lost Wind, Cliff 30 eventually. So I just swap out one accessory like this, and I have a Vital Point hit setup as well too. And of course I have multiple setups for skills. I have a stagger setup, and I have a counter setup. This is the one I use for Hanumatan. And so to me, right, just the active building meter with things like, you know, Prelude of Storm and Wind of Music, constantly doing that, you know, upkeeping your buffs and things like that, positioning this well and to make sure that, you know, the buffs don't overlap, you know, clutch Rhapsodies to protect people, good counters, right? Like, to me, Bard is a very engaging and fun class. And I know a lot of DPS mains with support alts don't see it that way, but to me, like, I really like playing my Bard. Very fun, very engaging, and just being able to give people 3-bar buffs at good times. Because I play Igniter Sorc, I know the timings for Igniter Sorcs, and I always get, you know, messages saying like, wow, like, you buffed me every single time I did it. Like, how did you do it? I'm like, well, I play Igniter, so I know the animation and sound effect for Doomsday. So, you know, things like that. So, definitely one of my favorite alts to play like this. Now, the rest of my roster really isn't worth talking about because I've purposely made a investment to only play 3 characters. I feel like, to me, the ratio of return and enjoyment kind of cuts off at 3. Right, playing 3 really good characters is kind of enjoyable for me. So everything else is kind of a low-paying mule, as you can see over here. I had a Hunger Reaper that I used to play a long time ago. Used to be really fun, but nowadays, I don't know. Just doesn't feel that good to play. It's annoying to get to the back, even though you have Nightmare and things like that. And upkeeping Hunger is kind of what killed it for me. It's just really annoying. I was thinking about switching this to Lunar, but honestly, uh, it might just be being stupid, but I can't do like backdashes. That's why I don't have a Gun Lancer. Like, my brain just doesn't work that way. I also have 2 supports that I used to play in my roster. I still kind of do, as you can see. I still do like Volton and Vicus on them. But I made these to learn what they do and how to play them so that when I play DPS, I could play around their buffs and skills better. But, uh, you know, that's kind of why I made them. But I also kind of made them because, you know, I didn't want to get gatekept. I wanted some easy mules to make money, and that kind of backfired on me, as you know, right now it's a DPS shortage, right? Artist is fun, really active. I like the little hopper thing where you can, you know, shield multiple people. The buffs are fun, the animations are cool. Paladin is like the most chill support. You kind of just switch on your aura, you maintain your debuff, you maintain your attack buffs, you rotate them, you shield people. Super chill. These alts over here are things that I made a long time ago. A Deadeye, Enhanced Weapon Deadeye, a Mayhem Berserker, and a Firepower Artillerist. Don't really play these anymore, honestly, just because, I'm not a big fan of Entropy. Berserker used to be kind of bad and gatekept, and I just didn't like the clunkiness of playing Artillerist. So I was thinking about making a Barrage Artillerist, but honestly, staying in one place and doing damage is just not my style, as you can tell from the types of characters I play. I've been thinking about bringing Mayhem Berserker back. I've also been thinking about playing a Gunslinger instead of a Berserker. So likely with the Express next week, I'll be replacing my Reaper or one of these characters with either a Berserker or a Gunslinger. That's currently my plan right now. Anyway, that's my roster. You can see that this might be kind of a surprising roster for someone who's played since launch and is fairly hardcore, but to me, I like to play characters that are like almost main level status because I find more enjoyment. I'd rather play three really good characters instead of like one really good character and then five like okay, reasonable characters. It also helps to prevent burnout in my case. Which kind of brings me to my last topic that I wanted to address in this video, because it's kind of a hot topic right now, and every person on YouTube and Reddit and Twitter is talking about it or whatever, right? And that's this kind of concept of the game is dying and burnout, and people are quitting en masse, the bots are back, and all this doomer talk. I'll say it right now, I love this game. I've, dedicated a good amount of time and invested a lot into this game, both time and money, for the better part of the last year. And I really want to see this game done well, and that's why I've tried everything in my power to prevent burnout. You can see that for my raids, I do, of course, Belshazzar, but my other raids are Volton and Vicus, because to me, I am not really a big fan of Clown. I really don't like that raid. I know some people do. Not really a big fan. So to me, I just do Volton and Vicus, take the gold hits, carry some people, it's all good. But you'll see that, for these characters who are 1 to 6 ready, right, I'm only doing 1 to 2s, right? You can see them over here. And occasionally from time to time I'll do 1 to 4s, but mainly I do 1 to 2s because honestly, I'm kind of sick of Belshazzar. We've been doing this raid for like almost half a year now, and while it was epic at first, now it's kind of whatever, right? It's a little bit boring and humdrum. So, of course, my main will be doing 1 to 6 until I have the, whatever achievement I need. I might stop at 5, I might stop at 10, I'm not sure. But for these alts, just as soon as they get their relic sets, or their ancient sets, I'm most likely going to drop Belshazzar in general, because honestly, it's just such a long raid. Maybe just a 1-2 or something like that. And so I've been trying to combat burnout myself. Right before Hardbrail release, I actually was on hiatus. I wasn't really playing the game. Hardbrail kind of brought me back into the game with my static and things like that. And I totally get all the complaints and everything people have talking about. So what I'm really hoping for is that in this summer Loa on, they'll really address some of these topics. Now, before this game, I played MapleStory for 2 years, and MapleStory is run by possibly what is the worst company in the world, Nexon. And I've been gaslit many times by them talking about trying to improve various things in the game and things like that. I really hope Smilegates doesn't follow their example and they actually work to, bring new players into the game and also make older players happy. Maybe that's just some copium that I'm huffing, but that's really what I think. Right now, for me, I'm kind of evaluating the game. I'm hoping that these changes and Algacia and Akan will be a better experience than what we have right now. And if the game gets better, then obviously I'll be a very happy person. Anyway, that's my roster and my thoughts on the game and my history with it. I'd love to hear about your experiences as well too. For those of you who also have been playing this game for a long time, do you agree? Do you disagree? Leave it in the comments down below. Um, Moving forward in this channel, honestly, right now, I don't have many video topics that I have in mind. Maybe a couple things here and there. But if there are any things that you want me to talk about in terms of Sorceress specifically, let me know in the comments as well. And if I think it's worth making a video for, then I may just do that. In any case, that's all I had for you today. And I'll see you in the next one. Take care.